I don't. Right. See now?
Yep.
Perfect.
There's 49
I've got
stars.
the agenda.
Okay, perfect.
I've got the agenda off on my side, so I'll just start and you can turn it over after we get through the pledge.
Perfect.
So it is now 6 o'clock, and this is the January 27th meeting of the Public Service Committee. We do have a quorum. One person, Mackenzie, is excused. Otherwise, everybody is here. So I hope that can count for roll call. And I see Reese nodding along, so sounds good. I guess I should have said we were called to order at 6 o'clock. So item number 3 is recital of the Pledge of Allegiance. Bill, could you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
of
the
the United States of America,
to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice.
for all.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill, and everybody. Just making sure I wasn't muted. So we are on to item number 4, approval of the minutes. There's the minutes of December 16th, 2024. They were sent out, or you could have got them online. Is there any comments or a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Second.
So the motion was by Dawn and seconded by Bill. Is there any comments? Seeing none as I clip around. All those in favor of the approval of the motion or the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0 unanimously. And we are on public comment. Reese, you said you're in control of the meeting right now, is that correct?
Correct.
And I'm assuming, do we have everybody muted? So if you are here and want to speak under the public comment, I'll give you a minute if you could raise your hand. I did talk to somebody actually this weekend, and they had trouble finding the raise hand. So I will mention that if you go down below the bottom underneath, right now I'm looking at Reese, but there's a button that says reactions. So if you hit that reactions, there is an option to raise hands. So again, I'll give somebody a couple seconds to find that button.
I think everybody
I'm
who's
not
on is
seeing
here for the
anything,
meeting
so-
specifically.
Jim, is that the thumbs up button?
Thank you. I would say anything will get you recognized, but I see a raise hand button. Okay, well, thank you, Judd, for that comment too. So we will move past the public comment and on to presentations. 6.1 is a presentation by Carolyn Shoemaker and Julia Fechner. Please correct me when you speak. It's from University regarding sustainability and the program. I guess Carolyn and Julia, could you take it away, or Judd, do you want to lead
I'll
off
give
the
a quick
discussion
update.
now?
These two ladies did an exemplary job of picking up where Heidi left off. They were able to present to the village board last Tuesday, but I did want to make sure that they came and shared with you their findings as well. And they put together a great report, and then also a great one piece that we can use repeatedly in social media and coming events with poster size information on our sustainability efforts. But I'll turn it over to Carolyn and Julia, who I'm going to miss working with, but they did excellent. So,
hi guys, thanks for having us. It is pronounced Shoemaker. I'm Carolyn, and then Julia's last name is pronounced Fechner.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I'll just share our presentation real quick. All right. Can you guys see that all right?
Okay,
Right.
great. Thanks so much for having us here. As Carolyn mentioned, my name is Julia Fechner, and we worked on a sustainability project this past semester. So I'm just going to go through a quick introduction of the project and some of our community engagement aspects, and then Carolyn will move on to the more details of our findings. But as a commitment to pursuing sustainable practices, DeForest has really done a great job committing to that and partnering with the University Alliance program to provide Carolyn and I with this opportunity to work on this project. So in order to preserve natural resources, promoting this healthy and vibrant community that you've already been doing a great job of, we're going to highlight some initiatives that are currently in place and then some maybe goals for the future, including a number of cost and labor effective actions that the village can take in a few specific areas: energy, waste, and water. So to go through how we sort of narrowed down to those three topic points. Back in October, we attended the e-waste recycling event with Judd. We were able to hand out 300 slips to residents that came through that event that day and talked to a few of them. But through that, we gave them the opportunity to fill out an online survey on Engage DeForest. And through that, we received 57 survey responses. So they were able to rank those topic items you see on the left there and leave a few open comments. We received 14 comments. Some of them were, positive feedback, constructive criticism, things that they'd like to see, goals for the future. So through that, you can kind of see where those final items ranked in importance to the community members who filled out this survey. So that's where we landed on waste reduction, water and wetland preservation, and then sustainable energy. And then moving on, another little side project that we developed with the help of Stacy, who I saw was on the Zoom today. Thanks so much for being here. We were able to develop sort of a list of all of the current kind of past sustainability initiatives that have been going on in DeForest, and develop a map, which is also located on that Engage DeForest site. So when you go through and click on those different, options for water and wetland preservation or sustainable energy, things like that, there are some links to different pages on either the Engage DeForest site or other DeForest web pages with just resources and more information for either residents that want to participate in those, whether it be, a native plant cleanup day or something like that. There is a QR code there. Otherwise, the page is available on the Engage DeForest website, but it was really fun to get to work with Stacy a little bit closer on this and create this interactive map that Judd had a great idea of maybe using it for an Earth Day event as sort of a scavenger hunt, just different ways for the community to get a little bit more engaged with that. But it was a really fun project, and I'll turn it over to Carolyn.
Yeah, so you guys have probably all been able, I hope you have all been able to take a peek at our report. No worries if you haven't been able to read through all of it. I know it's a little bit long, but yeah, like Julia said, we focused in three main areas, and that's energy, waste, and water. So this is just kind of an overview on some of our recommendations. Each section is organized by a bit of the background information that we gained from this past semester, working with the village, meeting with Judd, and doing some in-person visits. But specifically for energy, we had heard from Judd that there had been maybe some light exploration into renewable options, but that you guys hadn't been able to find anything that would work for you, both in terms of budget constraints and also just wanting to continue to use the excess energy that's generated, which I hear you. We did go through all of the options that Alliant Energy offers and met with your account manager at Alliant, Brad Hogard, who's very helpful with us, but we also came to the same conclusion that none of them are appropriate at this time, but did include information on how they may become appropriate or like what those constraints are, so that if situation changes, you could expand to there. Our big focus with this, though, was on energy efficiency. So I don't know if you have heard of Focus on Energy, but they are an organization completely funded by the Wisconsin utilities. And their main goal is helping Wisconsin residents, businesses, municipalities, governments, et cetera, become more energy efficient. So they provide a whole host of completely free services and products. Specifically, they do a lot of personal one-on-one advising, specifically catered to the needs of whoever they're speaking with, whether that's a resident and a homeowner, or a restaurant, or a school, or a municipality like the Village of DeForest. They will come and walk you through different options that you can take to become more energy efficient, whether that's with existing buildings you have or new buildings, or they'll help you access financial incentives and tax deductions for energy efficient purchases. They also have like an online marketplace there. They make it really, really easy to work. And we met specifically with Joe Kotwitz, who's their municipal liaison. And he seemed very excited to work with the village. He said that in the past, I think like 12 years that the village or that the program has been around, the village has never applied for any sort of energy rebate. So that could be really helpful. I also know that another University Alliance project that is happening with the village is some facilities planning. And so this could also be incorporated there. They'll also do like building optimization. And then for residents and businesses, like I said, they will provide free supplies. I know them most well from their free home energy savings kits. I actually have one in my home. Any Wisconsin resident can get a free home energy savings kit. It's like window insulation and other options to make your home more energy efficient. So it's really great. And then we also met with the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. This is a new nonprofit. They came around in about 2020, but their main focus is on helping local governments share information, resources, etc., on energy efficiency, moving towards decarbonization and other like sustainable measures. There's a lot in there about planning, transportation, etc. The main focus here is that they can do what Julie and I tried to do with this process, but a ton better for the village. They can do a great job of giving you all of the information that you need. Again, there's like personalized advising, everything is free, great resources. In terms of waste reduction, the biggest thing here is always outreach and education as to what is not recyclable. It's a pretty arduous process because it involves, community engagement, developing materials, meeting with LRS, who currently is your waste and recycling hauler. But we were thinking that this is a great project to involve future UW students in. As we've learned over this process, and like I've mentioned, DeForest has shown like a lot of commitment to continuing on this process of the University Alliance with UW students. And so when we met with the Municipal Services Administrator from LRS, he shared with us a host of materials that they had already generated, which are linked in our report that you can then share on Engage DeForest or give out to residents so that they can better understand what can and cannot go in each bin. But we also recommend that UW students could help in this development and dissemination of new materials and working with LRS. Justin, our contact, also said that they're working on some new things and so that they'll stay in contact. But we wanted to also highlight a special focus on lithium-ion batteries and plastic grocery bags. I feel like most of you know the main concerns with these, but the main one is lithium-ion batteries, which are a safety hazard to pretty much everybody involved. Another thing that we're recommending is that there are potentially tours or more educational materials to residents, especially about the DeForest Material Recovery Facility, or MRF, which is right in your backyard. They're a great resource. And again, our contact, Justin Montani, who is linked in our report, indicated that he would be more than willing to help the village out. Additionally, we looked into some options for composting and other organics management that the village could take. We looked into public options, such as like expanding local community garden composting that's already there. Private options, there are a number of private companies in the area, and they often allow subsidies or they'll allow discounts to residents, especially when they're able to market at a larger scale for the village. There's also, from our conversations with Greenbox Composting, they're looking to lease land. And so that could be a good long-term investment for the village and offer this service at a very reduced rate for the residents. And then we also found an option of funding through the Dane County Department of Waste and Renewables, which could potentially also fund current composting going on at the community gardens that we saw, or even some of the work being done at your drop site where you have residents bring brush and stuff. It's not that much money, but the county offers it. And then one of our other recommendations is to explore further waste and recycling haulers as this LRS contract comes to an end. This was just another thing where we had a semester to do this. It was something we wanted to get to and didn't really have the time. And then in terms of water and wetland preservation, so Heidi did a ton of work on this. As you guys know, she was actually one of my TAs in one of my past classes. So I do not attempt to be able to reach what level of water resource management knowledge she has, but we were looking into a couple of different options and areas with this, including flood mitigation, such as continuing to expand on Heidi's priority areas framework by completing these grid infrastructure projects. We were specifically recommending that, again, continuing this partnership with UW, because UW students can provide free labor and information, and I know that that can be extremely helpful in these types of situations. But we recommend that you work with UW engineering or landscape architecture students to pilot more green infrastructure projects in problem locations, those flooding locations, those 3 parks that are listed in our report, and also to apply for more funding for projects such as these green infrastructure things. Or I know that you guys are working on some restoration on the Yahara. I also saw that Stantec is presenting after this, so small world. But this focus on climate resilience and flood mitigation can be a great benefit to you, especially given your geography located like right above Madison in the University of Wisconsin-Madison on the Yahara, because any flood mitigation work you do there will directly benefit this massive urban area. In terms of local government wetlands conservation, there are a couple options to be done here. We met with the Wisconsin Wetlands Alliance, where again, free services, they're more than happy to work with you guys on any of these things. One of the things that we recommend from them is developing a wetlands conservation ordinance within the village using their model wetlands conservation ordinance tool. They can also advise you on this process. And then in terms of planning, establishing more local rules about setbacks, distances, and direct contaminants. Because we were looking at this from like a village-wide scale, we weren't really able to get that site-based specific scale that would be required to come up with more strict planning recommendations. We also did some research into wetland banking because we were informed by Bill Chang that the village is, comes into hand with all these wetlands and wants to find a way to preserve them while also finding value in them, whether that's opening them up for public lands or public access. And so what we were looking into with wetland banking was the ability of the village to take some of these lands, complete some enhancements upon them, improve them, and then have them stay open for public access, such as light trail use, but also be able to have a long-term investment. And so we've got some information on that in there as well. But yeah, overall, that's the report. I don't know if you guys have been able to see Julia's deliverable, the thing that can, the communications piece that can be reused year over year, like Judd was saying, but it's really great. But overall, we just want to say thank you to all of the people that have helped us, especially Judd Blau, Bill Chang, and Stacy Harmon, all from DeForest. It's been a really great experience so far.
I'll just echo what Carolyn said. A big thank you and shout out to all the help we've gotten throughout this. It's been a really great experience. And thank you for taking the time to listen to us tonight.
So I do want
Thank
to
you,
apologize
Julia.
to the committee. I thought I included their report in the packet, but I somehow it didn't make it in. So I did just email it to you all. And if I can quickly find Julia's one sheet, I will fill that up and share it here quick. If anyone has questions.
Have any questions from the committee? Stacy, I saw you were online. Is there any comments you want to make too?
I'll just share. I thought the girls did a phenomenal job. Had so much fun working with them. Really proud of our Engage DeForest page that we put together, and hope that is something that here in the village we can keep building off of, because I think it is a valuable asset to our community to see the things that we're doing. I think sometimes we don't recognize all the work that we're doing until we actually start making that list and putting those dots on that paper to see what we're doing. So kudos to the girls.
So
Thank
I'll
you.
just talk a little bit about what Judd is showing up on the screen here. This was that little flyer, just a front and back one page. It can be digital or printed out to hand out at events or just keep in some, buildings there. But it just gives a brief overview of sort of what is sustainability and what does it mean for this program. Again, those, really key focus areas that were placed on that survey that we made, and then just a few very brief, like, here's what residents can do, what they can take action for in their own homes and learn more about, and then that QR code to the Engage DeForest site that we developed so that people can, if interested, go find more information. And then this backside is just on what is DeForest already doing, a lot of the great projects you've had, and then leaving that section down at the bottom blank for some future goals, short-term 2026 goals that you might have, and then listing the community projects open house where our project might be presented there, and then the e-waste recycling events in 2026 and Earth Day. So it was really fun to put together this little informational and educational piece for residents, and hopefully it gets used eventually. But yeah, it's been a fun experience.
Thank you very much. I guess I got a quick question with what was flashed up on the screen, and maybe this is for Greg or Judd. Are we doing anything for Earth Day? I think that's when we normally plant trees and stuff too. So
Yeah.
maybe we'd want to add that to the flyer. So,
Yeah,
Yes.
we're doing Earth Day. We've got natural area cleanup days, all sorts of park cleanup days. So we're doing all sorts of events. So we'll think about adding those.
perfect. Thank you all for your work. Any other comments from the commissioners or committee members? Well, thank you very much for attending tonight and sharing your reports. Feel free to stick around and see what Stantec has to say. So item number, you're welcome. Item number 6.2, presentation by Stantec regarding the Yahara River habitat and stream bank restoration. Is
Yeah,
that going to be
I can-
Greg, it looks like? Yeah.
I can lead that off here, and Judd and I have been working together on this a lot with Heather and Melissa from Stantec. So Yahara River Habitat and Stream Bank Restoration Project is underway. We've been going at this for about 2 years with planning and working with Heather and Melissa on grants. We're well over $400,000 in grants. I think Melissa will cover that here shortly. And then we're getting pretty far in the design, so that's why we're here to discuss the designs and what other grants we're gonna apply for and all that. So I'll lead it off to Heather and Melissa, and you guys can fight over who goes first.
I'll go first.
right.
Hi, I'm Heather Schwar. Like Greg said, I'm with Stantec. I'm a water resources engineer. I thought I would lead off today's just presentation with just trying to get us all on the same page and give you a little bit of background on how we got here. And then my coworker Melissa's on the phone. And if you have any grant funding questions, or if you want to talk about just project locations, I can bring up the plan set and show you that as well. So I'll try sharing my screen. Melissa, do you want to come on real quick and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Melissa Curran. I work pretty closely with Heather. I really, I'm sort of in front of a lot of the design and planning of this project, really working really closely with the village on the funding side. So I think we've been working together for almost a couple of years on that. And now we're even thinking about funding for phases 3 and 4, projects that we haven't really even conceptualized where those are yet. Just because a lot of the funding takes has a pretty significant lead time. So I'll go through some of that if folks are interested after Heather's done.
I will just start by sharing my screen here. I'll just do my entire screen, and let's see here. We'll just do the presentation. There we go. So just to get everyone kind of the background here, about 2 years ago, Stantec published the report for you guys called the Yahara River Stream Bank Erosion Assessment and 5-Year Plan. And it stemmed from the Yahara River experiencing problems with stream bank erosion and suspended sediment delivery due to land use changes within the watershed. There's been increased flood peaks and just water volumes coming down the Yahara River, and it's been degrading these stream banks. So sediment then gets deposited within the channel, and then it overall reduces the channel's capacity and efficiency. So Stantec did a stream bank erosion assessment throughout the entire 37,000 linear feet of the Yahara River within DeForest. So starting all the way up at East Yahara Road and ending all the way down south on Windsor Road. And the assessment looks at, approximates those erosional forces on the bank. And then it also looks at the erosion rates and things that can cause instability, such as possible root loss or just the angles of the bank or what the sediment is, loss of vegetation. There's lots of things that go into just how erodible the stream banks are. But that was done for the entire reach. And what you have on the screen there, you can see the yellow is where there's moderate erosion. And I'll show you some pictures of what moderate looks like. High is the orange, and then very high is the red. And so that was done, like I said, about 2 years ago. And we then thought, well, you know, after we did this, we summarized all the results into, you know, where is it? Is very high, high, and moderate. And you can see that, you know, of the 112 areas that were identified as the moderate to very high, that accounts for about, I think it was 80% of the overall cumulative estimate sediment loss was within those areas of erosion. So if they're in that high, very high, the moderate isn't the thing that's really doing it. It's the high and the very high that is contributing the majority of the sediment that's going down there. So that's in our report if anyone wants to dive into it a little bit more. But so what do we do about the stream bank erosion? What are some nature-based solutions that we can do? Are nature-based solutions the appropriate method for us to use here? These are all things we've looked at. And what I'm pulling up here on the screen in the bottom corner there is just a diagram of what a tow-wood sod mat looks like. And so this is something that we're proposing to use on DeForest. And the whole question of will it work or not, what I'm showing you on the map up above is the reach that was from Windsor Road on the south down by the Sunfish Lake and up. Those are project areas that we worked on. I mean, it's 8 years ago now. And I just wanted to show you just some before pictures and after pictures. So you can see the before here, the stream bank had that nice scallop look to it, major erosion happening, and we came in and we installed some tow wood. Same stream, same kind of level of erosion, and it's been working great. And so things that we can do for stream bank restoration then are these things like stream bank protection, using root wad composites, using these tow wood structures. And then other methods are things like this, which are flow manipulation structures and grade control structures. And these are also on the Yahara River. So on the left picture, I have a picture of a J hook, which is basically a curved structure. In this case, it's made of rock. You can use logs and other things as well, but it's a curved structure that deflects the flow and kind of directs it towards the opposite bank. It creates a thaw egg deeper in the channel on the inside of the bend there that the J hook's directed at. And then the structure on the right picture is more of I think that one's another J hook, but it creates some grade control as well throughout these reaches. So these are structures that we've used in the past in the Yahara, and these are structures that will work in these new reaches that we're looking at. So I just wanted to show you pictures of those. And after we looked at all the data and places that we'd like to do work, Melissa and I spent a day out in the field thinking about, well, where does it make the most sense to do this, right? We can't start from upstream to downstream and just work our way through, unfortunately, because like I said, some of those areas that are moderate erosion really aren't contributing that much, and you want to get biggest bang for your buck, right? You want to be able to bring in construction equipment and do something. And some of those places where you have the moderate erosion, you could actually cause more damage to some of the trees or possibly more erosion just trying to get to the site to fix it. So I'll show you some of those pictures. But we identified a phase 1 location and a phase 2 location. The phase 1 is from South Street on the north to River Road on the south. It's the reach that has the only really large red area, the very severe erosion on it. There's a nice bend in the river there that's really eroding away. And then the phase 2 area is where the Upper Yahar River Trail crosses the river and it goes down to Innovation Drive. And so we wanted to find areas of the corridor that we could connect, that would be able to have multiple stream projects in a row, that we could actually improve the channel, not just to small little places, but where we could actually improve large sections of the stream. So that's what phase 1 and phase 2 are. And I just want to show you a couple pictures of, just so you guys can get in your head what I mean by, you know, moderate versus the very high stream bank. So here's a picture of the phase 1. So this is just downstream of South Street. This is what I would call moderate bank erosion, right? You have some low erosion right along the toe there, but you still have vegetation. There's still trees, there's still root systems holding a lot of it in place. It's still doing pretty good. There's things that we could do here that are less invasive. And in fact, this last week, I don't know, Greg, if you've shared with everybody or not, but we had a meeting with Trout Unlimited that is very interested in this channel because it's now a classified class 2 trout stream. And so this would be a great area to do some handwork, to do some small stream bank protection methods without bringing in large equipment and taking out the trees. So this is that moderate, low to moderate bank erosion. Then
yeah, I'll touch base on our meeting at the end after Melissa.
Okay, great. Thanks, Greg. And then this is what I'm talking about when I say moderate to high bank erosion, right? This is where that section that was red on the diagram, this is where, you know, they're anywhere from 4, 6, even 8 feet tall banks that are eroding. It's more than just a small section. This is where your mass erosion's happening. We're actually getting like large sections of sediment dumping and creating suspended sediment going downstream. It's where you can see there's not a whole lot of trees necessarily along the top, you just have some low grasses. Things are just not being held together. This is an example of a place where bringing in equipment, if there's access, which in this case there is, could really have a positive impact on the stream stability, reducing suspended sediment, and we could actually improve some habitat for trout and other aquatic species in this reach. So that's kind of my background for all of you. I don't think I have another picture, no, but I have the plan set that I wanted to show you. So let me hit escape here for a second and bring up just the plan set. I just thought I'd page through just so you guys can see that the places that we're talking about doing some of the work, because Greg said that's probably what you're most interested in, is seeing where this is all happening. So let me just walk through here. Let me page through. The first major area is this is River Road running north-south here. This is that bend I showed you pictures of there with that major erosion that's happening. This is one of the big areas that we would be proposing to bring equipment in and doing some of that tow wood and some of the deflection structures within the channel. That's one of the first areas. This is the phase 2 area. This is that Upper Yahar River Trail. We're proposing some debris pile removal that's in here, some tow wood and bank grading that's going to be going on, and some in-stream structures. So this is kind of an area within the phase 2 that we could get a pretty long corridor constructed.
That's right by Bluestem Drive, and then Indigo, Bulrush Circle, that area.
Right here, yep. And then this is heading towards Innovation Drive. Innovation Drive is south of this. This is a section here that once again we have kind of a tight meander and some higher stream bank erosion. I believe that one was orange. And then right by Innovation Drive, there's this long section that looks like it's been channelized. I mean, it's a long straight section that we're proposing to do some work right there. So they're kind of the 3 major areas of work that we're proposing for bringing in large equipment. I can show you a few pictures of just, you know, details as far as like what some of those structures would look like. Like I said, you saw pictures of what previously was done. So some of the root wads can be put in here, and actually some soil matting and planting of natives can go on top. And in areas where we have meanders, they can be stacked all the way through the reach, creating some roughness, and it actually will scour out a little bit underneath it. And it's great places for trout and fish to habitat in there. And actually with the root wads, it'll actually slow the water down a little bit right in that section and cause some of the sediment to drop out. So in places where we have stream bank erosion upstream, will actually help accumulate some sediment in places here as well, on that point bar. So that is just kind of an overview of design and the areas of where we're thinking about doing this work. I'm guessing you guys have questions as far as funding goes. So I think I'm going to toss it over to Melissa just to give you a background on what funding we received and what funding we're still pursuing. Melissa? Oop, you're muted, dear.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So funding sources, I just wanted to go through phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, because that's sort of how we're thinking about this project. So for the phase 1 project area, we did submit a Knowles Nelson grant. Actually, this one's a little bit of an anomaly. The Knowles Nelson grant was specific to access improvements. So in addition to the stream bank stabilization that Heather talked about, there are some areas where we're improving kayak and canoe launches. So this one actually may span across several different phases. So, but specific to the bank erosion, we did apply for Wisconsin DNR Targeted Runoff Management Grant, TRIM grant is what they call it. And those grants come around every year, and they're really to support farmers implementing best management practices to improve water quality, but stream restoration, because it is known to be a cost-effective way to address nutrients and sediment input into streams, they do fund stream restoration. So for at least the first phase, we were able to secure $161,000 from that grant, and they are 2-year grants. So that one started last year. This year will be year 2 of that grant, and it'll fund the phase 1 portion. We also applied for a Madison Community Foundation grant, and we're able to secure $50,000. And then we applied for a DNR surface water grant. That's again an annual program that we secured $25,000. So around $245,000 if you include the Knowles Nelson grant for the initial phase 1 project. And then we started last year applying for phase 2 grants. We again submitted another TRIM grant, and we'll likely consider applying for that every year until we're done working on this project. So we secured a little bit more this last round than we did for phase 1, about $221,000. We also submitted again for a surface water grant, and that one is still pending. We will find out mid-February if that one is awarded, but we've proposed this project in phases to the funding agency, so they know that this is a multi-phase effort, and funding agencies actually like that approach. They like investing long-term in projects. And then we mentioned we met recently with Trout Unlimited, and they do have some special funding that they're considering submitting to this grant, so to this project. So I put it in the phase 2 category. So we've got 2 pending. I think both the surface water grant and the Trout Unlimited grant are very likely. So it's about $263,000. So collectively, it's about $500,000 that we've secured for phase 1 and phase 2, which should cover the majority of the expenses, I understand, for at least the construction phase. And so now we're starting to talk about what's next, because we have to be applying for grants now that will fund design and construction a couple of years from now. So we're again going to likely submit another TRIM grant this year for yet to be defined phase 3, phase 4 project area. That's an ongoing discussion right now. There is a driftless area grant that's funded by Fish and Wildlife Service that we'll likely submit next week. That could be up to $75,000. Again, we're not sure if that's going to fund one phase or a couple phases. And then again, we'll apply for a surface water grant this fall and talk to the foundation about maybe a phase 2 approach. So that's sort of the future, but really we've been wildly successful funding this project in phases to date, which has been great. So I don't see any reason why that would slow down going forward. Does anyone have questions?
Any questions on funding?
I'd say I got questions, but I'll wait to open it up to the committee members. And I know Greg, you wanted to talk about the Trout Unlimited.
Yep. So we had a really great meeting the other day with the DNR, Heather and Melissa, and then Trouts Unlimited and Dane County. Everybody's really in support of this project. It's quite amazing. Actually, the DNR reached out to Trouts Unlimited for us and, got us the connection, and we just kind of ran with it. Got a meeting going, talked about funding, possibly working with the Friends of the Yahara River group and Trouts Unlimited and having a work sessions together on doing some of the handwork stuff. And then they're pretty excited being an urban watershed that we can reach a lot of people with this project. And for trout fishermen that normally you have to drive, an hour away to get to any good trout streams here. We're right in town where we have a lot of trout and a really good trout stream. So we're looking, Melissa wrote a really good supporting letter to Trouts Unlimited that we're sending off. And hopefully we're asking for $20,000 from them, and we'll see what they come back with. But it was a great meeting, and we're looking forward to seeing what they can help with. And then Melissa, do you have the diagram of the canoe launch, kayak launch?
Oh,
Heather might have it.
I do. So you
Oh,
want the
sorry.
locations? You want the
Just like
locations?
did you have a diagram of what they could look like?
Oh, I do. Let me pull that up. Sure, I have.
I know that was kind of a big thing that we had talked about before.
Sure, let's do that. Let me share again here. I can even show you a picture of the old one if I can find it really quickly. Share. Let me know when you can see it. Can you
Yep.
see my
You can see
screen?
it.
Okay,
Yep.
so it is just an at-grade, basically a path down to the river. And for those of you, let's see here, I pulled up a picture. Let's see if I can do it. Yep, there it is. For those of you that's been down by Windsor Road, there was one put in there by our design back in, I think it was 2016 that was installed. So it's an at-grade access path that has gravel underneath it, and then usually a sand or a mulch can go up on top, and it just allows you to bring your kayak or your canoe right down to the river. Part of our grant funding requests, there has to be an ADA compliance. So it's Western Green and Veterans Park are the two locations that we have as for the canoe launches as part of this phase 1 and 2 project so far. But we, as part of the 5-year plan, we looked at up to, I think it was like 13 different locations. And we can look at funding those as needed. And I guess I'll be looking for Greg and Judd to be telling me where the next places are that they want to be implementing those. But this is what it would look like. And like I said, I have the diagram there. It's going to be very similar to this when it's put in. And I have maps too, if you want to see those, Greg. I can pull those up on Western Green if you want.
Can I ask, since you had it on screen, are you doing anything at the water? Because I think even that Windsor one that you had on screen is a bit of a step once you get to the actual waterway.
So we have part of our work was doing topographic surveying to see how big of a drop it is right in the location right as we get down to the river, and in the location of Western Green, I think there's a drop, but we're going to be doing some grading down there. And at Veterans, I think it's a lot lower if I remember correctly. I don't have the grading in front of me, but it would be minimal amount of grading just to bring it down to the channel. It wasn't a very steep drop in there.
Okay, but it sounds like we are able to grade it to be more accessible then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We could ask Stacy on how that launch goes, but no, we won't.
And I did want to say, as part of that meeting that we had with Trout Unlimited and the DNR, part of the thing that was really great about that meeting was the DNR just recently put out a new general permit for some of the stream work that's out there. It came out on Tuesday, I think is the day that it was released this week. So it's, no one's applied using that permit yet, but the DNR gave us some recommendations as far as not only having the permit be for some of the construction work that we're talking about with the tow wood, but also to include some of that handwork we talked about that Tread Unlimited could help us with, or have Public Works or whoever, you know, you want to work with the Friends of Yahara or Dane County Conservation League, whoever would be doing some of the handwork, that we could put it on that permit so that it could be work that's done in those areas that we want to be less invasive.
Sounds good. I think we'll open it up for questions. Jim?
Okay. Anybody have questions? I'm clicking back and forth.
No question.
Not seeing any. Yes,
Okay.
I have a couple questions that you were, so Heather, you're using the term tollwood. And I just remember a project, it was actually done, you had shown a project along, say, just north of Windsor Road, but a little bit farther north than that. I remember putting in root balls, we called them. Is that a similar thing to the tollwood that you did show?
So tollwood tends to have, or will have, the a large part of the base of this tree trunk as well, because you actually put the tree trunk in. So you grade out the stream bank, you lay down the tree trunk with the root wad intact, and then you bring the soil back on top of it. Root wads tend to be their own, just the ball itself is put in the channel and anchored down. The only time I recommend using just root balls is if you're only interested in maybe habitat components, or if you have an anchoring mechanism, if it's like a low flow channel or maybe a backwater area that's not experiencing kind of those high velocities. In a channel like the Yahara River, which I'll call it flashy, right? That all of a sudden can have a surge of water going through. I would recommend using tollwood over some of the root balls in there, just because we want it to be anchored into the bank and we want it to be stable. So how are the root balls doing in the places that you're talking about?
I would say they're doing well, but I'll maybe ask Greg. You were probably even there during the installation. Do you remember that? Was it probably 10 years ago?
Yeah.
It's where we launched the rubber ducks and stuff. So
yeah, I think that, I mean, it's holding up well right now.
Good.
Yeah.
I just figured with the pictures that you showed, say it was like 4 or 5 feet down, it looked like. I would assume we do a very similar thing there. Just
So grading the bank is a key part of the tollwood, where I'd say root balls are not necessarily involving grading. That's I guess the other way to think of it too. It's not just the trunk, but you're grading the channel back, so you're creating a little bit of a floodplain bench, but you can also flip the soil back on top of the wood after you're done. And I've had great success with it, because it allows you to build kind of a 2-stage channel. It allows you to get that floodplain bench. You just have to make sure you get it at the right elevation. And the great thing about the Yahara is we have a lot of great data on it already, not just from, we've already completed a hydraulic model, but from the previous work that's been done. So we have a good idea on the bank full elevation, both in the model and both from a geomorphic standpoint. So tollwood work well.
And the way I remember that past project is that we had some, say, tollwood or trees available from, I forget what development was happening at the time. So I'm guessing Greg and Jed are already starting to accumulate those, or at least thinking about it already. So
Thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, you got more questions?
Yeah, one more, or actually just 2 other comments is, I'm wondering if we're going to be doing any cribs, especially if you're starting to talk to Trouts Unlimited, or are we just going to think that the tollwood and stuff will probably be the habitat trout needs for reproduction or whatever? Again, I just remember 10 years ago talking about putting in cribs for, say, trouts.
I think it has some natural reproduction that's already occurring. When the DNR spoke with us, Kyle from there, which is why it's a class 2. and you know, a few steps away from it potentially getting into a class 1, but it is doing reproduction on its own. We will consider potentially stocking if we need to help bolster that and create more natural reproduction, but it is doing that on its own as it is now. So
Very good. And my last comment I wanted to make is, I don't know exactly where, say, phase 3 and 4 will be, but I'm assuming there's a lot of moderate areas that you might want to look at, but I also want to lift up going north of North Street. I know there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done there, and I'm assuming we just acquired that more in the Baki Conservancy area, so it could be real benefit too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Did you
will add
guys
it to
look
my
at
list for
that,
possible
Larry?
consideration.
Yeah. Did you look that far north, or?
Yeah.
They did the study from Yahara Road all the way down to Windsor Road.
Okay, good.
We kind of deferred the northern section initially when Heather and Melissa and I went out, kind of talked through those areas with Greg. That might be opportunities there for us to potentially restore that through other avenues rather than our own funds invested. But certainly it's something that I don't know if it extends all the way down towards Baki, but that's an area we can look at.
Yep. I just wanted to bring it up. I know there's a lot of woody debris up there and stuff that needs to be addressed at some point.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's everything I had.
Yeah, and just thank you, Melissa and Heather, for coming in tonight to talk about this. This is great. And we are looking to go out for bid pretty soon, you know, in the next month or two, and waiting on some permitting and things like that. So we're moving forward, and we're hoping our window for a project is between May 15th and September 1st or something like that. So it's a short window over the summer. So that's the plan. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just writing some things down. So thank you guys very much. Guess we'll move on to discussion item 7.1, discussion on launch of the 2025 Park and Connect. Is that Stacy or Judd?
Yep.
Or who?
Yep. So we have Stacy here, and she's going to talk about the Park and Connect. I will pull up the presentation here.
Thank you, Reese.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do two things at once. And thank you, Greg, for calling me out on my experience at the canoe launch.
And that
I
brutal,
thought
brutal,
about
Greg.
pulling out the video, but
All right, can you all see the presentation?
Yep, start queuing up the video, Greg.
yeah.
We're going to save that for my retirement someday.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
Can we all see Reese's screen for me?
Yep.
Reese, there's like a text box that popped up that says turn or forgive subtitles. Thank you. All right, so tonight I'm going to talk about an initiative we hope to bring in 2025 to the community. I'm kind of titling it Park and Connect. It's something that I learned about when I spoke at an IAP2 training last April out in Nebraska. They really went over community engagement, public participation, and one of the big hitters that they always talked about was meeting people where they're at. So with this committee and our fabulous park system, I thought this might be a great opportunity to kind of implement this Park and Connect concept, and then maybe it can grow into other departments using it for other initiatives. So really, the purpose of this Park and Connect is to design and strengthen the relationship between the Village of DeForest, residents, neighborhoods, and provide an open platform for you guys. It will be for like park and recreation related concerns, ideas, and community needs. The program encourages residents to engage with community leaders and committees directly in the parks where they spend the most time. So it's fostering that relationship, meeting people where they're at a comfortable space. I know it's always intimidating to come onto a Zoom meeting or to come to a board meeting or to share your concerns or suggestions. So this kind of breaks that barrier down. So we're all at a park, we're all hanging out. We have village officials there, we have staff there. It's a great opportunity to meet with them and get to know them. You know, your trustees are your neighbors' trustees. Your neighbors are the ones who vote you in the office, right? So it's like building this relationship. And that's really what the concept of this Park and Connect is all about. We do have some goals kind of for this initiative. Engagement is having that direct communication from the resident to the village official or the staff person, having that open conversation for concerns and suggestions, and creating that safe space for that communication. Gather diverse perspectives. So collect input from a wide range of community members to ensure that there's a diverse viewpoints and representative in planning and decision making. Again, it's, you know, at a park, there's different walks of life that come to the park. So, you know, getting those different perspectives of those that that utilize our park facilities is a great starting point and a building block. Awareness, increase community awareness for park or current park projects, recreation opportunities, the role the parks play in enhancing our quality of life. So again, if we have a new recreation program, it might be an opportunity to kind of do a little intro to what that could look like. Maybe we're launching a new yoga program. Maybe we could do yoga in the park, different sustainability things. It's just that platform that gets people out, meeting their neighbors, meeting, again, village officials, and building that relationship. Enhanced transparency, that's a big one. You know, improve the transparency with local government operations, having that open information sharing. As this grows, it can grow more beyond projects and park related things. We could use this when a time for budget comes along, if there's a big project, different things like that. And then collaboration, it's building that strong community ties, bringing the neighborhood together and in that relaxed setting. Again, like I said in the opening, sometimes can be intimidating to appear before the board or come to a committee. And this just has that open, casual conversation. Well, maybe you're pushing your kiddo on the swing or something like that. And then, you know, taking that feedback and putting it into action. So those are some of the goals that we'd hope to take out of this project or initiative. What we were kind of thinking would be 3 events throughout the summer, kind of summer months. And then utilizing events we currently have. So we know there's already a draw on an event at Fireman's Park. So we already have that built-in audience. So why not have a tent, have some of our staff members, have our committee commission board members there. It's a great opportunity to engage with the residents that live here or even visitors. Why do you come to the forest? Is it the band? Is it Crosstown Drive? Is it, you know, we got great food carts. So kind of just keep building on that. So we can use some of the events where we already have the people there to start building it. And then we can ramp and go into some of the smaller community or neighborhood parks, like some of the little pocket parks, and we can do some neighborhood targeting. So whether it's, you know, I've done it before with Kelly when she was here, we went door to door, handed out flyers and invited that neighborhood to certain meetings. So it's something like that where we can really get that neighborhood together and give them ownership of that park. Per se, to say, what do you want to see here? I think this is something we kind of saw with the changeover of Sunnybrook. It was kind of a more established neighborhood at time. And then the younger families moved in and they said they wanted to see a playground, and the playground structure got installed there. So, which has become a phenomenal asset to that neighborhood and those along the trail. You can stop, your kiddo can play for a little while. So, thinking, you know, everyone's tight on time, you know, 1 to 2 hours for these events, nothing major, nothing, you know, again, if it's tied to an event at Fireman's Park or wherever, you know, it's just the length of that time, but others, it's just a short window. People have things to do. We don't want to commit somebody to like a 3-hour neighborhood park. So just having those short windows. And then again, spreading these events out throughout the community. We have the Southern DeForest, you know, do they know about everything that's happening up here, about everything that's going on? So it's a great opportunity to get down to the southern end of DeForest and share some of the things that are going up downtown here in the main area, and bring that awareness. Those are some newer parks being developed. So again, to share what those parks could look like. Maybe they don't know anything about our Park and Rec program. So just get that education piece out on that piece. And then next slide, Reese. You know, while we have that 1 to 2 hour window, just coming up with some ideas of some things to do. One was like do an idea wall or chalkboard wall. We have those great chalkboards from Yahar River Fest. So simple of, you know, put those chalkboards up, and it's a great, easy way for kids, adults to put an idea up there, and just run with it. You know, we could ask some kind of intriguing questions to start building that conversation. Another idea was a guided walk or talk. This could maybe be along the trail, maybe with what we just talked about with the stream bank restoration. It could be a little guided walk down the trail to show some of the work that we're doing, highlight some other additional things that we're doing around the community that tie to those parks. We are so proud of our parks and trail system, so let's use that to our advantage. And then like a pop-up workshop or class. So here again, I was thinking could be a pop-up yoga in the park or adult fitness class, or somebody could demonstrate how to use all that fitness equipment over at Rivers Turn. Do some sustainability workshop type things, some child adult enrichment programs, some different things like that, just to engage the community and make it fun. And then of course, we also talked about like, could we get ice cream to hand out, or you know, everyone's enticed with some ice cream things. So with that, like I said in the beginning, long-term vision, you know, we start with your group here and kind of the parks and trails, and then we can kind of build off of that. Maybe it lands when we get closer to budget. Different departments can maybe use this as a tool. Again, using the people and meeting them where they're at as an engagement tool to get their voices. And again, just continuing on building that strong community, connected community. So that's what I got. Questions?
Thank you, Stacy. Is there any questions, comments? See a lot of thumbs up by Eric.
I just have a question, Stacy.
Yes.
How, and you see what you're trying to do. How in a percentage wise is overall interaction with the public then? Is it above 50, below 50? How are we doing in general?
I mean, I think it probably depends on the topic that you're thinking about, or you know, who you want to, or yeah, I would depend on the topic. I think we also have seen, you know, when we go to some of these meetings, we always have this, it's like the same core group that is always coming forefront. This gives an opportunity for maybe those that just move to the community to meet their officials, the staff that work for the village, to get to know where I need to go if there's a concern. Example I shared with Reese was last year, like the zip line down at Turney Park was broken. I don't know how many emails I got about this zip line. It was just like, so it's kind of like one of those things where we could also in this opportunity share of like, you notice something at the park that's broken or needs to be fixed, like we can get up that information out to those residents in that neighborhood of here's the phone number you want to call, or maybe it's investing in some signage that has a QR code, like report a concern, like something's broken at the park, you can share that information here. So
is there anything like a packet you could send Eastways or anything to like new residents when they come into town that would?
So we do send out a new resident packet to residents when they when they move in, so they get a packet of information, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think that includes, I know we used to send out our rec guide with it, and then now it's gotten to a point where we don't do paper rec guides anymore. And the size of our rec guides have continued to grow, so just the cost of postage on that as well. But I know there's like information about water, your water bill, like trash and recycling, It's pretty, I feel like it's a decent amount of information that residents get when they move here.
Yeah, it's a two-sided page that has, like Reese said, stuff for park and rec, recycling, garbage, how to registering for voting, polling locations. So it's a pretty extensive piece of paper that has a lot of information. Now, I don't know about you, sometimes I get mail and stuff in the mail and I don't really look at it, or it's like, oh, I moved here, like I don't need that right now. And
No, it's just up by me, there's 12 new homes. I'm just like, if we're trying to reach people, you
Right.
know, we've all moved into the last 6 months, so,
yeah.
okay. I just was curious. Thanks.
Yeah. No, that's, I mean, maybe that is something we look at revamping what that 2-pager looks like or what information's on that 2-pager. We've done, you know, an extensive amount of upping our communication game. So maybe there's an opportunity there to share more information on there, how to report a concern.
Yeah, and I think, like as Stacy had mentioned, you know, one of our ideas was to try to kick off these Park and Connects at one of our established events. So looking at doing one at Fireman's Park and there be able to share the dates for the others. So hopefully we're getting some people who come, they see that booth and they can kind of, you know, hear about it, and word of mouth, I think it tends to be one of the most successful methods for really getting information out, just because, I mean, I know everything that Stacy does and all the work of digital, and I think about when we do mailers and hangers, and we still have people who are like, I never got this information. But, you know, if they heard it from their neighbor, then 100% they got that information, you know, as quick as possible. So, you know, we think that that might be a great way to launch it. And so one of the ideas that we were looking at and hoping to kind of talk about tonight too was just some of those, like having the first one maybe be the June 5th. It's when we have piano fondue at Fireman's Park. It's kind of right towards the kickoff when summer's getting out. And so we thought that that would be a good time to promote the events there. And then wanting to make sure that we do one in July as well, because that's Park and Rec, National Park and Rec Month. So I think, you know, maybe doing some event in another park. So maybe looking at Shane O'Donnell or Dale Jenkins Park. Dale Jenkins Park is down in that, you know, southern half of DeForest. You know, trying to get them involved, and we want them to make sure that we feel like a cohesive community. And there's a lot of new homes in that area too. So there's kind of a little bit of an established neighborhood, but there's a bunch of homes that have just gone in within the last year or two, and trying to get their feedback of what else we can do for that area, and have them know, like, these are the people you can talk to if you have questions or concerns, and we can share more about our trail systems. And then we thought we would try to maybe skip August, just knowing that that tends to be a busy time for families, either traveling and getting ready for school to start again. And then maybe trying to do one in September where maybe we do get that cusp of we're starting to, you know, talk about the budget, bring some of those items to them, and get feedback. So the first day we're really looking at is that June 5th, and then the other dates, we don't have a specific one. I know in one of the times that we've talked about in the past, I believe someone mentioned maybe the idea of doing one of our public service meetings as one of these events. And so we could certainly look to do that. And I think the biggest thing we'd probably just want to make sure for that meeting is that we don't have any actionable items for that meeting. That really it's just kind of as an opportunity for us to have the meeting out in the public and to hear from the public and get to engage with them, and really just talk about their neighborhood, and then not have any other business that we're dealing with at that time. So those were kind of the ideas that I think we wanted to just float around with that and just kind of get the general feeling from the committee, and then you know, we can bring back some more secured stuff after we get your guys' ideas.
Thank you, Reese. Anybody want to share? I guess the one comment I'll make to sort of piggyback on what Reese said is I do like the idea of maybe limiting the amount of action items, if any, just because going at a park, we would be hard to record. So that could create some issues. So I like that comment. Anybody else? Okay.
All right.
Yes, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, one comment that I had another one from that was brought up when Eric was talking about like a new home or whatever package you give out to a new home. I pulled off on my side screen the DeForest website, and I just wonder if we want to have somewhere maybe under live and work that we'd have like new residents that could be that handout that you give out, because I don't see where you would get it. I mean, I'm guessing everything's there. You just have to go to the individual links, but
Right.
might be nice for a new person, just like, oh, right there's my button.
Definitely. We can look into that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Stacy. And I'm guessing
Thank you.
good night, unless you're here for something else.
That's it. I'll wait to hear from you guys for how we want to proceed.
Okay. Thank you. 7.2 is discussion and recommendation on a proposed subdivision ordinance amendment. I'm guessing that might be you waiting patiently, Mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we got Brandy Cooper here, who doesn't normally join our meetings, and Mark Roffers, who doesn't normally join our meetings. But we got some things they want to share with us that have impact to our public spaces for that public services handles, specifically some of the park areas. So,
Mark, do you want me to share my screen to bring up the memo and ordinance, or?
Yeah, you can bring up the memo first, and we can then see where we go with the ordinance. But hello, committee. I know many of you, but not all of you. I've been working on planning, zoning, and development work for the village since 2004. It's been since 2004 and earlier that we've had the subdivision ordinance that the village currently operates under. The subdivision ordinance comes into play when people want to divide land from bigger pieces into smaller pieces. And often when they do that, they are also dedicating land for public roads, public parks, and utilities and other services that are necessary to serve that land division. The ordinance has been amended from time to time to address issues here and there since it was adopted, but it hasn't been revisited on a cover-to-cover basis since I've been working with the village. We have put together a draft rewrite of the subdivision ordinance. It's in the packet. It covers the topics that you see if you pan down a little bit to the bullet list on that memo that you see in that bullet list. We've had a number of condominium developments, particularly in Conservancy Place, but also in Fox Hill Estates and elsewhere in the village. And those, in many cases, have private roads. We're looking, we look to those projects to make sure that those private roads serve the development appropriately, get people in and out, get fire trucks and other services in and out. Our subdivision ordinance is not really caught up to that notion of private roads and condominium plats in particular. So we're proposing to deal with that. The second topic is that we have wetlands, as you've heard earlier, within the village. And we also have standards for protection of wetlands that involve keeping them whole and also usually having a 75-foot buffer around them. We want to make sure that people are all aware where wetlands are when development comes forward, including the people who are developing lands or buying lots from them. So we are proposing some standards to make sure that we get field delineations for wetlands whenever possible. We have had a lot of subdivision activity over the past several years, and we've learned a lot from that. Things that are going right in the current subdivision ordinance, there are things that could be going better. The subdivision ordinance, as I mentioned, covers not only the division of land, but responsibilities for public improvements, roads, utilities, et cetera, to serve that land. Those improvements are all specified and guaranteed through development agreement. It's actually called a subdividers agreement in the subdivision ordinance. We've had a lot of those over the last several years, and we've learned a lot as to what works within them and what doesn't work so well. We'd like to calibrate the subdivision ordinance to build on what works. The fourth bullet, the village does have the ability to review land divisions within the town areas outside of the village. That authority has been chipped away at by state law changes and court decisions over the last 20 to 30 years. We're trying to update the provisions in the code to reflect those state laws. In many cases, when a subdivision plat or certified survey map dividing land is recorded, there's also a need to record protective covenants over the land. Those can deal with issues ranging from house design to stormwater management responsibilities over private lands to make sure the public interest is protected, water meter access, things like that. We want to make sure that there are proper means for enforcing conditions through covenant recording and other things. And so we've had the village attorney involved in helping us tweak some provisions in the code to deal with that. Second to last bullet, we have requirements for planting landscape strips along state and federal highways. The DOT also has requirements for keeping lands free and clear along its state and federal highways. We're trying to reconcile those two through some amendments. And then finally, there's a grab bag of miscellaneous stormwater management grading and water supply design standard improvements that reflect more recent and best practices, including water looping, system looping, making sure drainage ways are sufficient width to handle water, et cetera, to accommodate new subdivision development in a way that protects the public interest and the environment going forward. The actual ordinance that's in your packet is, many pages long. The way we've approached this amendment is that we've used crossouts and underlines to show the changes that are being proposed. Everything that's not crossed out or underlined would be existing ordinance language that we're not proposing to change. Given the scope and purview of this committee, we're suggesting that you look at potential the changes in what's called chapter 5. That starts on page 28 of the ordinance. That's the public improvement standards within the code. Within 13.50, those are standards for parks and public land dedication. That starts on page 38. And then section 13 should say 0.61. Those are the provisions related to what's included within a subdividers agreement or development agreement. And then all of them kind of trickle back to definitions that are also used in the ordinance. With that, I'm happy to go to specific sections of the ordinance. We also have Planning and Zoning Commission reviewing this at its meeting tomorrow night. The ordinance would then, after you all review it and offer comments, after P&Z provides its recommendation, would go to the village board for its consideration at an upcoming meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Maybe a clarification for somebody, the answer for me. We are making a recommendation to the village board. I'm assuming we're not recommending to planning and zoning, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, anybody want to start a discussion? Bill?
Yeah, I appreciate the need to update the ordinance, especially condos. We've seen a significant amount of condos since this ordinance was created. It clears up a lot of questions, language, things like that. My concern is, since the Recreation Committee, Public Works Committee was disbanded, a lot of site review, things like that went through these committees. And I understand taking those out of the committees to speed up the process, and it's worked. My concern isn't with taking out this committee's overview of site reviews, things like that, but things that should be our purview under this ordinance have been removed. 3 items: waivers and exceptions to the ordinance should come before this committee for recommendation to the village board. Bicycle and pedestrian trails is subject to review by the Director of Public Services, no longer recommendations from the committee. Number 3 would be dedication of parkland, and the grading system that we developed as part of the Corp plan recently accepted and passed by the village board, namely the grading system and the lack of the language in there where we would make a recommendation to the village board. Those 3 things. Otherwise, there's nothing in this for us that's really gives us any recommendation. Any recommendations in the old ordinance that needs to be renewed have been taken out. So this committee would have no teeth in anything. And I don't believe the committee needs to have site plan review, things like that. But things that are dear and near to us have been taken away for recommendations. And in the present form, I cannot vote for it.
Thank you, Bill. I guess, can I ask you, Bill, is there specific pages or something that you can point out as far as where it was removed? Or I guess, Mark, do you know where those are?
Sure, and maybe, oh, go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
13.5110 waivers, 13.456, and I'm sorry about losing the page about park dedication. I had all this and spoke with Bill about it over a week ago, and I lost the page. My problem when I should have checked before I had it tonight. It probably wrote something on it and threw it away. But there's a section about the Parks Committee accepting when a developer comes through and dedicates parkland. Now we have a grading system, correct? You know, we grade the parkland that they're suggesting on a scale of,
So,
10 points for this, 20 points for that.
It was included in the corp. It's not, we're not, required to use it, but it was an additional tool that was included with the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, and something that, can be nice as a tool for us as staff to be able to, as like a developer is coming in, be able to use that and have that as something that we can provide to developers of, hey, this is how, the proposed land that you wanted to provide scored, and it doesn't meet, what we're looking for, and this is why we're not accepting it. And then there would be the discussions in fee in lieu of land. I mean, also statutorily, and Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but, if the lands do not meet the needs or requirements of the village, we are not required to take any land if it doesn't meet if it's wetlands or the grade is more than, I think, 4% or something like that. Then we have the opportunity to not accept those lands and get fees in lieu of land.
Correct, but at least in the ordinance, it should state that subject to our committee's review and recommendation. There is nothing in this now. It just says Public Works Director. So, I mean, there's nothing in this ordinance that really gives the committee any concern because they don't have anything in there that says, you know, upon the recommendation of our committee. So, I mean, there's no teeth for us to even look at anything. It's streamlined, but it kind of makes our committee insignificant. Is my word.
The idea
So
behind
my concerns are with those lack of, you know, it's like what says this committee.
The committee was set up that it was designed as such that it was for recommendation only, and not and by making it contingent upon a recommendation, that's empowering the body. So that would be something that you would have to have the village board direct what this purview of the committee is, right? So that was not how it was established to do that. So the idea behind it was to streamline the things, right? The board sets the policy and parameters, and then the village experts that are in these positions are the ones who meter and look to see if this meet the needs of the community based upon the policy set forth by the board. And subsequently, if this body passes a recommendation to the board and the board accepts it, you know, then it's this board. Having been the recipient, sitting on Public Works, Parks and Rec, and Village Board, and had I been on P&Z back in those days, I'd have seen the same presentation 4 times, and seen the same thing happen, you know, 5-6 times, and then so the idea behind it way back when was to streamline the process and make it easier. So.
I guess I pulled up one of the sections that I think Bill brought up. It was 13.456.
Yeah.
I guess the way
I tried to find them too, and I'll try to find them on the screen here so we can look at them together.
At least what?
Go ahead.
Yeah, 13.45.6. The way I looked at that one is really if a developer comes in and matches our comprehensive plan and or our corpse plan, even official map, it goes through without really review of, say, the committee or the public services director. It's only when they want to go against what's been planned that they would seek a recommendation from the director of public services as it's written.
Yeah, so I guess it's a philosophical question. I mean, I believe this committee was involved in the recommendation of the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. And you would be involved here in the recommendation on the subdivision ordinance, both policy documents. You know, the question is whether the committee should be involved in the implementation of the policy or not, if policy is being followed. So it's completely up to the village to decide this. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yep, and I don't quite know what to do, say, tonight. I guess myself, talking as a village board member, I could see that being the public service committee making a recommendation, just because it is different than, say, what was recommended and adopted in the different plans. And really, we're not requiring a developer to come to this committee and thus adding whatever amount of time to come see us if they're following our plans.
Sure.
But I don't know if that's something this committee wants to weigh in, or if you're saying it's just the village board thing to discuss.
Well, you know, it's in your purview to make a recommendation to the village board on this and any other matter, for sure.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Or I guess, Bill, I should ask, you still have the floor. Anything more you want to add?
No, I was awaiting other committee members' feelings on this. You know, do they feel that we should have some authority on something? Like I said before, site reviews, things like that, is more planning and zoning, and it would really be a waste of our time to look at. But what's important is the selection of the parks, exceptions. Jim, as an example, the Bueller subdivision, our town, is that correct? The correct one? Is that the Bueller where the
Yeah, you got it. You got it, Bill. Bueller Farm.
Yeah, the question of whether to put in a sidewalk or a public path. Maybe the village or our committee should have looked at that, because it's under the path 13.46, was it? I'm sorry, I wrote down the wrong thing. So just something like that, you know, it came before the village board, and I know it was dear to your heart, Jim, but it's something that we could have made a recommendation, and maybe at the village board level, when you spoke and it was rejected by the village board didn't understand it. If it would have came with a recommendation that we have a path or a sidewalk, it would have been much clearer to the regular village board members. A lot of the village board members don't read in the detail. Like, I give Jim credit, that was dear to his heart. But to be honest, I see a lot of people don't read or just gloss over that and don't see the importance of it. But at the public services, that's what's important to us. That's why we have this committee, hopefully. Otherwise, what is the purpose of our committee? We made a recommendation on fluoride. We make a recommendation on this. I'd like to hear what other committee members have to say. Maybe I'm in the minority and it's not important for them to have a say at the committee level to make a good recommendation to the village board. Thank you.
Anybody else comments? I guess not seeing any, I would just reiterate what I already said. I feel if we've got plans in place and the developer is following our plans, I don't know if it necessarily needs to come to the committee, because we would already have given our input through the plans, and I don't really want to add unnecessary time to a developer if they're following what we've pretty much already told them to do. I'm not opposed to changing some of those things to be, say, a committee rather than the director, just for the sake of having the developer actually have to explain and get more input on, say, from us or the committee.
Jim?
Okay. Yep, Don?
My hand is up. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yep, I can see it now.
Okay, thank you. My question mark for Greg or Judd, 13.50, number 2, park dedication. The fee in lieu of land should be paid based on equivalent against the village's plan and any other policies adopted by the village board or committee thereof. A little bit farther down, it says, determines that a proposed dedication meets some but not all of the usable land. It may recommend, and the village board may approve acceptance of that land with partial credit to the parkland dedication. So what is that partial credit? And I'm not understanding that part of the paragraph. If somebody could explain that to me, please.
I can.
I let Mark, I'm going to defer to Mark.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, a particular subdivision by the parkland dedication requirement here early in this paragraph had to dedicate a 5-acre park. But the village determined that it really only needed a 3-acre park, and it didn't want a 5-acre park in that development. So then we have to do some math to say, okay, you dedicate the 3-acre park, but what is 2 acres of park worth? And once that's determined, then that acreage gets turned into a dollar amount for the balance, and that dollar amount is based on the park land impact fee that is provided later on in this section. So $3,308 per residential unit in single family or duplex structures. And that all gets kind of figured out and documented in a development agreement that the village board approves.
Where does that figure come from, Mark?
This one?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that came from a park and recreation impact fee study that was completed in 2006, I believe, to determine the kind of the value of the parkland dedication amount.
So 2006, Mark, but we're at 2025. That number hasn't changed in 19 years.
That's right.
I will just add, staff is having discussions, and Brandy can definitely back me up on this, because just on Friday I was talking with her about this and was going to reach out to Mark just to see kind of get his input on us looking at maybe doing a fee study. In the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, it was covered in there, and there wasn't necessarily a recommendation that we needed to change it at this time. And kind of looking at other communities in our area, where I would say we're pretty comparable with what our fees are, and maybe Mark knows differently, but I think from what the study that they did during our court process, that's what kind of came out. So it's something just to kind of think as a committee that we should weigh, of depending on what the cost would be for us to do a study right now. Does it make sense for us to pay that amount of money to do a study when it might come out that maybe we shouldn't change our fees? Are we collecting enough fees to build parks dollar for dollar? No, but I think if we did that, we would see a stop in all all development. That's my opinion.
I would agree with Reese in that, compared to other suburban areas around Madison, the fee amounts are comparable still. They were probably, I know they were much higher than average when they were adopted in 2006.
Mark, on that same imposition of impact fee under D, if you could, do you have that up? Yeah.
I think so.
It says the fee imposed by this paragraph is in addition to any amounts imposed by PAR D.
Oh.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand what that is.
Thanks, Dawn. That's you picked a good pickup. It's really in addition, should be in addition to C.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought, but
yeah,
I have those.
Thank you.
I like that it referred back to itself, so it was a circular argument.
You never get off of it.
Catch, Don.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say, Jim.
Thank you, Don. Bill, I see your hand up again.
Yeah, just to help Dawn out, I had a recent discussion with our administrator about the fees. And just by looking at different communities, there's a wild range of fees. And I don't think they've really looked at when those fees were raised to the present level or what, but there was some kind of agreement with Bill about maybe we should look at the fees. It's something we should, but is what level of importance it is. But I would support, because like you, 19 years, the price of a slide has gone up, or the price of land has gone up, things like that. Secondly, this would be a good example about in lieu of the fees in parkland. The most recent one was down in Savannah Brooks, where the hockey rink was built in the 400 apartments. And part of that was we didn't need any more parkland down there. So the portion of the parkland fees were used to buy ice time at the ice skating rink for ice instruction, park and rec, ice skating lessons, open skating for the public, and also the outdoor area behind the ice rink for programming for, say, a summer concert, things like that. It's private property, and in lieu of them, say, handing over $1.2 million, we made an agreement with them that instead of that, we get time blocks. So we can use, that's just an example of the latest thing. They didn't shell out $1.2 million. They, over the course of 10 years, in an agreement. So there's flexibility there, but we really need to look at the cost, and maybe it needs to go up to $8,000 or $6,000. Who knows? Unless we take a look at it, the crazy way everything else has gone up, I can't see why it went. So that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Is that correct, Jim, on your interpretation on the lieu of fees with the yards?
I can answer that.
That I don't know.
That is correct. We have a facility use agreement in lieu of them paying the park improvement and park impact fee. And, there are state statutes that limit what park impact and park improvement fees can be used for. And so, maybe a total dollar amount was 1.2, but some of that money could only be used for acquiring land and infrastructure items, and other parts would be able to use for actual improvements, putting playgrounds on, or building sports fields, or whatever it is that would be decided for parks. So there's a lot of nuances that go into those different fees. And to your point, Bill, it was a creative way for us to get an amenity for our community that there's no way that we as a community would be able to afford to pay for, with those fees that we would have collected.
Mm-hmm. So thank you. I see your finger, Bill. I was just gonna offer up, as far as like maybe Reese, if I could put on you, if you know how much the study would be, maybe we bring that back to another meeting, or if you want to bring it up to the village board for maybe incorporation into our budget.
Yeah, so my plan was to try to look to get some ideas, ballpark of what that would cost, and then bring it back to the committee. So I don't know if necessarily it would be for February, but certainly this year before budget time.
Okay. Thank you. Bill, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, just quick. Just so the rest of the committee is aware, it never came before our committee. It was decided at the village board level, and in closed session, it was discussed. We've had closed sessions on things like that before, but that skipped our purview as to whether the members of the community that make up this committee, there's Jim and I.
Oh, I can't hear him.
Yeah, so Bill, you're cutting out a bit. I think you're maybe paused now too, so apologize. I'm gonna hand it over to Dawn right now, since you got your hand up, Dawn.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully
I have
Bill
a
comes
Mark.
off.
Mark, you mentioned that our fees seem to be in line with communities around us. Are you speaking of like Wanakee, Sun Prairie, McFarland, Oregon, communities like that for the impact fees?
Yes, I mean, when you're in Dane County and what I call the first or second ring suburbs like DeForest, these are comparable fee amounts. I mean, they drop precipitously when you go up to places like Poynette or Arlington.
So knowing that, Jim, I don't know why we would, and I'll have to disagree with Bill on this. Mark is telling us, and his expertise is impact fees, you know, he knows around the Dane County area. So if ours are in line, at this time with a budget, you know, we're always trying to loosen, excuse me, I'm sorry, I can't get the word out. Work on not so much in the budget, that would give Reese a way to say, we're not going to look at it this year, perhaps next year. I just feel that we need to listen to Mark and not spend Reese's time or pay somebody to do these impact fees again. If the village trusts Mark to do all of this, I think we should too. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Don. Okay, anybody else with comments? I've got one myself, and I'll pitch this probably to Mark. Is that I think you are aware, or I know you are, that I have some concerns over the definitions and usable lands.
Yeah.
And what Dawn just brought up was a way to maybe mitigate my concerns as far as like partial credit for things. I know, like, one thing I personally would rather acquire, say, floodplains and wetlands into parks rather than having them excluded because we're not giving credit for them. And in the usable lands, they're pretty much excluded as being dedicatable or whatever you want to use the term. But is there a way to, say, acquire those at a reduced rate based on like the exceptions and stuff?
Yeah, so I've got the usable land definition up on screen right here, and just to maybe repeat a little bit what Jim said, the village will give park credit if you meet the usable land requirement as it's written out here, and I can get into the details of that as needed. The village can also give partial credit if it chooses to for land that doesn't meet one or more of these criteria, and it can do so under the waiver and exception provisions that are within the subdivision ordinance. And I would say for most of the new subdivisions that we've seen, it hasn't necessarily been for this issue, but we've had one or two waivers or exceptions that the village board has granted to facilitate the division. So if we had a lovely wetland that had significant value to the village to keep in public lands, and we wanted to make sure it happened, of course, a good way to do that is to provide an incentive to the developer to give it to the village. So there's nothing in this ordinance that prohibits that from happening. The tool and technique that has to occur under the current ordinance is that a waiver or exception needs to be granted to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the way this is written, like in 33B, the direct, as it's currently drafted, the director of public services could determine that a steeper sloped area is a good necessary for parkland. We're proposing to do that with the fiduciary development off of River Road for a sledding hill portion of a park, where it makes some sense. So this provides that flexibility to enable that kind of thing.
Thank you, Mark. And maybe just to clarify what I was talking about is looking to me like if you look at Western Green, pretty much what 3/4 of it is in floodplain, and I find that place to be like a highlight for all of the forest. So I don't want to preclude that from happening in the future.
Yeah.
And then
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I like what say you have there where determination of the director of public services, or if we want to change it to the committee at some point, but as long as we have a way to get around it that we can include it, I think is good. And then I'll just add for committee members that haven't been part of my emails, I personally take I think 2% for a slope and then active recreation area. I am okay with 4% myself. And then the passive recreation where it says 12%, I'm personally good with 25. And I've got, say, my preference is based on my engineering judgment and streets and roads and stuff. But again, that has an exception that it could be approved by the public services. So I think that's good. The one thing that is not that I would like to have that qualification put on it is the 15% of the perimeter adjacent to public streets, the D. I would like the provision added unless otherwise approved by the Director of Public Services. And why I state that is I look at, say, different parks that tend to be more natural areas that have, say, narrower access. I forget the park in Middleton on the north side there. Maybe somebody else can remind me, but
Pheasant Branch Conservancy.
Yeah, Pheasant Branch, where a lot of it is not accessible. I know they bought more land lately that it maybe meets the 15% now, but for a long time it probably didn't. So that's why I asked that. Thank you.
I would say the
That's all my
15% is
comments.
15% is a public service, public safety concern more than anything for the police to be able to easily see what's happening in that park, right? And as Jim, to your point about making sure we don't miss out on Western Green opportunities, those are usually the lands we're given for parks in lowland areas. So we have to try to make the best of them when we get them. So, I think that is one that we've done an exceptionally good job on, but we also need parks that are at 2%, 4% slope. You can go look at Ziggy Field or whatever the land next to Ziggy Park, Ziggy Field there. That's at 4%, and that would be hard to use for a playground or other amenities for a park there. So.
Right, and my concern with 2% is I know that can be difficult to grade. So if you're grading a whole field, I would expect that there'll be bird bass at some point in there that we'll have to address. Okay. Anything else by anybody? Looks like Bill, we are still looking for a recommendation too. So go ahead, Bill. You're muted. You're muted, Bill.
Yeah, along those lines, you're talking about Western Green. I would include like Yahara or even Dahl Park. We've accepted those lands in the past as parkland, and it's not quality parkland. When parts of the year, May, usually flooding months, but as you know, Jim, Western Green flooded in July, August, and that made the park unusable. And part of this ordinance was to keep us from accepting lands like that. and that's part of the grading system now, hopefully. But we need to accept good lands. We've accepted poor lands in the past, and we don't want that in the future. I have no problem accepting natural areas, but not on a one-to-one basis, because the natural areas are usually wetlands of some degree that are not buildable in the first place, but are desirable from the village's standpoint in having them under our control, so we can do stuff with them. But that's my comments on that. That's all, and that's, we need quality lands, whether they're parklands or natural areas. Thanks.
Yep, thank you, Bill. Again, we're looking for a recommendation. Is there anybody willing to make a recommendation? Feel like we're getting close to being done with any discussion or are done. Do you have a suggestion? Was there a staff suggestion for the recommendation? It's maybe I'd be willing to make a recommendation to accept as written with the one addition that you just added on the screen, Mark. The whatever B. Or I guess D.
It's D, right. Then, of course, we'll make Dawn's correction as well.
Yep, the D to a C.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my recommendation to go to the village board. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Jim. Did you
Thank
hear
you,
me?
Dawn. Yep, I got you, Dawn.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, 7.3, discussion and recommendation on design and construction guidelines for public works construction.
Yeah, I can take this. So we're looking for a recommendation to the board to approve the standard guidelines for the Public Services Department for construction. A couple of the highlights that have changed, as you guys have seen in the memo and the highlighted guideline packet. There's a stormwater treatment changed from 100 years to 200 years. Dan County protocol that had changed, so we made sure to update that. T turnarounds were added to add clarity on dead ends that have future phases. So that way for emergency vehicles and plowing access, so we can turn around easily and not back in the driveways and stuff like that. So one big thing that we've are adding is the asphalt fibers. Judd's done a lot of research, and we've started adding asphalt fiber reinforcements to our asphalt. Hopefully, well, it will prolong our asphalt and make it stronger. For the water utility, we're adding 2 safe water samples. Used to be 1. This is for better protection of our water system, and DNR standards are not clear on whether it's 1 or 2 samples, so we're sticking with the 2 samples. We are looking at HDP pipe in the right-of-ways, so we can use both concrete and HDP storm sewer pipe. Easements changed from 20 to 30 feet to 30 to 35 feet wide. And trees where we want good established trees with dominant central leaders. So that's your good leader that, sticks up and taking control of the tree. Then we're asking for tree wrap from between September 1 and December 31st on the new trees, because we have to go out and do it, so we might as well have them do it while they're installing them. That protects them from the deer, basically. And then private roads, we've had some issues with street lighting, where the street lights have been charged to the village instead of being charged to the development. So we're putting it in there to say that they shall have their own electric meter for their private street lights. Those are kind of the highlights. There's obviously quite a bit more in there, but I'd say those are my bigger ones I picked out. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask.
Anybody? I've got just a couple myself. I don't see anybody coming off mute, so I'll just add
It's me.
Go ahead, Dawn. Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. I was a little late. Greg, on the trees that are planted, after they plant, they need to have a lot of water. How is that handled?
Yeah, so part of the contract with the people that install the trees during the project actually come back and water them for the first few months, and then if we need to, if we're in a big drought, we'll go out and water new trees.
So
And we
there's not a
encourage residents who
guarantee
have them. We encourage residents who have them in their front yard to take ownership and water them for us.
Yeah. On the asphalt,
Fiber.
that new asphalt that you're talking about, when you have to repave, like say Western Green needs to be repaved, just for example, what kind of asphalt? Is it the same thing that Judd was talking about, or what's used to repave?
Yep. So on a trail, we'll just use the trail. We'll remove the entire asphalt down to the base because it's only 2.5 inches, and then we'll add the fiber to the asphalt at the plant, and that mixes together and it makes it cohesion with the asphalt and makes it stronger and reduces the cracking over time.
So in other words, what you're saying is if a trail has to be taken care of because it's cracking and everything like that, you start right from the beginning again.
Yep. So like this year, 2025, we are going to be resurfacing Liberty Land Park.
Yeah.
And we're going to go down to the gravel base and start all over.
Thank you very much.
Just to clarify, this is for all construction. This is including our roadways and other public improvements too.
Yep. Yeah. So we give this out to the developers when they start coming in to talk about development. This is one of the first things that they get, they send to their engineers.
Okay. Anybody else with comments, or I'll run through my quick ones?
This is a working document, so every couple of years, we'll bring it back and add more as we, come up with more different changes.
Okay. The few comments I had, you already mentioned one of them. I noticed the 200-year floodplain, I think it was. And you said that's something that's the standard Dane County is going to. Is that something we want to do, or is it a state standard? To me, just 200 seems like a lot, but I
Yeah,
know the elevation is probably not that big of a change from 100, but
I can bring that back. I did ask, and that's what I was told. That it's Dane County protocol that has changed from 100 to 200. So.
okay.
And that's, we actually have been using that 200-year floodplain, or we've been
Okay.
using 200-year for quite a while.
Okay, good to know. One thing I wanted to bring up for consideration, I saw in there it talked of the Mr. Manhole that I know you guys use. I'm just wondering if there's other means too. I know with my job, we really looked pretty in depth with our manholes as far as how we did the specials to get them to be right. So I feel like there's other means too, rather than just requiring Mr. Manhole, but I'd let you guys do that research if there's other means. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of had a lot of complaints about, when you're driving down the road and you hit these manholes, 2 inches, an inch or two below, and that jars your car. This is where the Mr. Manhole comes in. It's a nice flush ride. And what we've found out is that it helps with infiltration too, because we're going 2 inches below the top of the casting, or the manhole cone. So that'll help prevent water, I from coming into the manhole as well. So.
Okay, so secondary applications or benefits too.
Yeah, I actually received a grant. I don't know, I'm gonna guess 6 years ago for Mr. Manhole, and Madison Met. I think we gave us $25,000 to test it out. So.
Okay, and the two other quick comments I wanted to make. Somewhere I saw where it said 5-foot sidewalk minimum.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to question that because at times we do want wider, say if it's directly adjacent to a curb. So I don't know if it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, we could definitely look into that, because I mean, like school zones, sometimes we have wider sidewalks for the bus drop-offs. We can definitely look into that.
Maybe put a conditions in there that cover ourselves for those. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I wrote down 2 foot above. I think that was with the lowest opening elevations.
Right.
At number 9, you see that storm sewer and stormwater management. There's a, let's say, bullet point number 9.
Yeah. All manholes located within the paved areas shall be adjusted with Mr. Manhole or approved equal.
Nope, I'm already all the way down to 9. I'm looking at a 2 foot above the lowest lot elevation or overflow route. I was just questioning what an overflow route is and thought it should be probably better defined, if that's like a floodplain or if it's a 100-year storm design or something like that. So storm sewer and then number 9. Oh, that's not the one I'm looking at.
Yeah.
No, you gotta go up. It's under storm and stormwater management.
Yeah. There. Oh.
Yeah.
What is going on there? Why do you have a different?
This is what was on the packet, so I don't.
Oh, I think he's looking at the memo.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I was looking at the guidelines here.
Right.
Got it here.
Um,
So if you went back.
I
it
just
should be
never heard
formulation somewhere.
the overflow route. I don't know what that means. I think that should be reworded to something.
no, we can look at it. Typically overflow routes are just that, once the pond gets high, it has a place to go.
Right, but to me, the overflow route is at the elevation of the overflow, or I think more correctly, it might be the elevation of the water at the 100-year storm event. I mean, because that might be a foot different. You see what I mean?
Yeah. We'll look into that and
The addition there is so grading plans shall specify a opening elevation for every lot. And a minimum of 2 feet above the lowest lot elevation or overflow route. The addition is, unless approved, it is the responsibility of the design engineer to ensure proper drainage to prevent flooding. Engineer record shall provide as-built information verifying LOE minimums have been met.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's what the addition is.
Okay, Billy, you got a comment?
Yeah, on that, would that be kind of like what the deal on Indigo Lane is experiencing? There, the lot line, the height above the curb line, things like that. Does this apply to a situation like that? The guy had the sewer outlet or a drain outlet in his yard.
I would say that this would be part of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it used to be 1 foot, correct?
I don't know if we had this in here. No, it's been 2 feet. We just added unless approved. And then it is the responsibility of the design engineer to ensure proper drainage to prevent flooding.
Yeah, that just for reference for me as to what we're talking about. And that makes sense. Thank
you. Okay. Well, thank you. That's all the points I wanted to bring up. And go back to the agenda. I think, again, we're looking for a recommendation, correct?
Yep.
And I'm assuming a recommendation to go to the village board. So.
Village board.
Anybody willing to make the recommendation? Dawn?
Okay, I hope I word this right. That we should recommend the design, what is it called?
It's called the
design.
This
on the agenda,
forest design and construction guidelines for public works.
Yeah. On design and construction guidelines for public works construction. Is that all you need, Jim?
Yep. So let me interpret that. You're making a recommendation to the village board to accept it as written. Is that correct?
Correct. I should have said accepted as written. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So thank you, Dawn. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Mike? I think I heard.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike. So the second I'll take from Mike. Thank you for the multiple ones. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all. Item 7.4 is discussion on request for proposals for developing park concepts. Guess that might be Reese.
I was thinking Greg was just going to continue his role and continue on with it. So Greg, you can take it.
Okay. So we're looking, obviously we've talked about this in the past about getting concept plans for some parks. We got Nelson Court Special Use Park, North Industrial Special Use Park, the adjacent to Ziggy Baseball Park, Rivers Turn Development Phase 3, Dale Jenkins Park, Shane O'Donnell Park, and Conservancy Commons Splash Pad. So we're looking to send an RFP out to all the members that sent us RFPs, and then we've got a parks conference next week that we're gonna stop by some other architects and give out the RFP, and hopefully they'll give us some concept numbers, and we're looking to have all the concepts completed by May 1st so we can share them at our park open houses or whatever we're doing. Sorry, Reese, I don't remember what we're calling those.
Park and Connect. It's
Park
on
and
the
Connect.
agenda.
Park and Connect. Yes. Thank you. So yeah, we're just wanted to give an update. We're looking to send this out here after this meeting, if we get the thumbs up, and start getting some concepts back, and we'll use those for public engagement and get people's opinions. And we expect changes as we meet and have those public engagement opportunities with the public. So
Yeah, and I know we had, just to add to what Greg said, we had some discussions last year during one of the public service meetings about looking to get an Engage DeForest page up with our current park concepts, just so that it's easily accessible for the public. And so I think that this is a great step towards that. And I know Greg had mentioned this during the budgeting process that we did put funds in the budget to be able to do this. So this obviously isn't all the parks, but I think it's a good start for us to be able to engage. And again, I think the important piece always to remember is that these are concepts and they're not, the final plan, and nothing can be changed. So yeah, that's all I really have to add.
Anything can be changed. We want to stress that they're concept only, and they're available for recommendation and input from all interested parties, immediate neighbors and people that live on the other side of town from these parks.
yeah, just really get the ideas flowing. That's what they're there for. So.
Okay. Don, I see your hand, but I'm going to ask for clarification because what it says on the agenda is discussion on the request for the proposals. Is that those RFPs would come back to us or for discussion on that, or is it we moving forward
I
with
guess
concept plans?
I think we would probably just bring back the concept plans, unless you guys really want to see the RFPs, but I feel, the concept plans are where you're going to want to really dig into those. Okay. And what we might do is bring that architect in for a meeting and get, do a meet and greet. Hey, you guys can say, hey, we want to see this in this park or something like that. We can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you. Don?
Well, we only have February, March, and April meetings before, the May 1st. Is there going to be a deadline required from all of these businesses to get back to you, Reese?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or Greg, I'm sorry.
The RFP, right now I have the RFP stating February 15th, but since we kind of held off a week, I'm going to extend it out another week. So middle to end of February, they'll get us their proposals back, and then they'll have 3 months to design them. put something together for each park. So.
But I think what Greg said is a great idea is that we could then look to have them come maybe to the March meeting and just kind of talk, and we can bring up the corp plan that was adopted and, kind of just share, what we're looking for in those plans based off of that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? I guess I would say that I do like that plan as far as like going out with the request, and in the interest of time, you'd probably be picking the consultant to do it, and maybe, well, then I would ask that they come in on March just to discuss those concepts with us. So hopefully everybody's on the same page moving forward, and we could get a real nice concept for whatever presenting in May or June. So
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
okay. Seeing no other discussion on that, I'm going to move on to 8.1 Public Services Update.
Just a couple
Jim?
things. To update you on one, we sure could use some more snow or ice opportunities that we could use some salt. We are very salt wise and salt conscious. However, we do have salt that's coming in that we may be scrambling to find additional storage space for, since it's been such a moderate winter from that perspective. So I'm going to keep asking for snow. I know some skiers might enjoy that. We are still continuing to harvest deer. We've had 50 total harvested. Only one tested positive for CWD thus far. 2 weeks ago, we had an opportunity and we got skunked. So we're giving the deer a couple weeks break. Greg and I are going to fly drone tomorrow night. Right? Today's Tuesday or Monday? Wednesday, whatever it is. Wednesday night. And just to kind of get a count on the deer in that same vicinity and kind of where they're hunkered down at. There are other areas we might be able to explore having those harvesters move to. And final update, I guess, the board will decide on fluoride next meeting date. There is an Engage the Forest page up, and feel free to add your comments and thoughts on that if you'd like to, and that website under Engage the Forest. So,
and I'll add too that there is a meeting on Thursday to gather more public input.
Correct. There's a listening session happening 6 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Yep.
I'll be there. I just don't know what time it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And I know there is 5 deer in my backyard this morning, so if you want to move down this way.
Super.
Yeah. Thank you. 8.2 Recreation and Community Enrichment Update.
Yeah, so we're finalizing the spring summer guide. That's going to be published on February 20th, and then we'll open registration the following Monday. I think it's at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. I'd have to double check that time exactly, but we've been kind of doing that delayed registration release, and I think that's been really positive. For the DeForest Dragon Arts so far, we have over 90 artists. I didn't talk to Trisha today, but it seems like every weekend, all of a sudden she's got 10 or 15 more. So we could be well into 100 at this point. Trisha is also working on a GEM grant right now for the 4th of July. This would be something that would help us with some of our marketing efforts and to outreach a little bit more. So we're excited about that. That's due at the end of this week. And then if you haven't seen, we do have a survey out for a couple of our movies for this summer. I'm just looking to get feedback from the public. I think it's always kind of nice to just engage a little bit. I think we're looking at the first movie in May that we have the survey out for, and then the last movie in August. And so, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Reese. 8.3 Natural Resources Update.
Yeah, Quarkus is still out there working, cutting down invasive buckthorn and honeysuckle throughout the Upper Yahara River trail system. I talked to them today to discuss where we'd like to start collecting woody debris like buckthorn and to make bundles, wood bundles for the stream bank project. So they're going to start making little piles for us to come and grapple out when we need them. So that way we have some materials when that project starts. That's Baki, the land that we got by Nelson Court, by Baki Conservancy. We started working in there with our brush cutter on our skid steer. It's really transforming into something nice. It's all buckthorn in there, and so we're opening it all up, and it's gonna look pretty nice when it's done.
All right, and Dr. Baki at the grocery store the other day, and he was saying how great it looked already. So
awesome.
Very nice. Could one of you give us an update on those acquisitions? Are those all complete?
they're all complete, with the exception of the 16-acre parcel. I think we're still trying to do some meets and bounds things, and getting that language cleared up with. I think there's some easements or other things that are running through there. We just need to get clarification on, but it's moving and should be happening here in relatively short order.
Okay. And the 16 acres, that's the east whatever that we're somewhat
The one
designating
just
for
off of
Brownway.
Windsor Road, east side of
Yep.
the Yahara River, butting up against the village of Windsor.
Well, that's great that we got those other ones accomplished. So thank you all. Any other business that lawfully comes before the Public Services Committee?
Yeah, I just wanted to add as a reminder that our February meeting will also be virtual again. So there is an election on February 18th, meaning that the boardroom won't be available. So we'll do it virtually. And what we had decided as a committee is that it would be on that same date. So that's February 17th. And
Yeah, so regular
Eric
date, but Zoom.
Yep. Eric had mentioned that he will not be present. So I have that down.
Okay. So thank you all. We are on item number 10. I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
I heard Dawn first. All those in favor, please
Dawn jumped
signify by
on
saying
that one,
aye.
didn't she?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? I think we got even more votes because there's sound like some directors voting in there. Motion passes 6-0. I'm trying to see the time, 8:27. Thank you
Wow.
all.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Yep, thanks a lot.
Have a good night.